Hello and welcome. Right now, the US Iran war is already pushing global oil prices higher across the world. And if you fill your car with gas this week anywhere in the United States, there is a good chance that you have already felt the first economic shock. Welcome to the reality. But here is the strange part that almost nobody in the mainstream media is explaining, nor on CNN, neither on Fox News. The real financial damage of the United States Iran conflict may not come from missiles, fighter jets, or naval battles. It may come from the global oil system itself. And once you understand how the system works, the entire Iran war economic impact starts to look very different. In the past 1 week alone, oil prices surged toward $90 a barrel, one of the sharpest weekly jump in decades. And the gas prices across the United States have climbed to around $3.30 a gallon. That is massive, and it is increasing. And they are shaking airlines because fuel costs and shipping companies are quietly rerouting vessels away from high-risk waters in Middle East. We'll pause here for a moment and think about this before the war has even fully unfolded on the battlefield. The economic pressure has already begun to hit ordinary people in the United States, which raises a question that Washington now cannot ignore, and neither they are answering that question. Is the US Iran war already draining the American economy? That is a very important question. I have spent years studying how power, war, and economics intersect. Journalism showed me how conflicts are reported on television screens, and research showed me how those conflicts ripple through markets, supply chains, and everyday lives. Sometimes these two stories are very different. You are watching In Focus with Dr. Adeel. Now, here is how this crisis escalated. The current Iran US conflict did not begin with slow diplomacy. It began indeed with direct strikes from United States and Israel. During late February, we saw coordinated US and Israeli attacks targeting Iranian military and nuclear facilities and triggering what analysts now call the most serious and lethal Middle East conflicts in years. And Iran responded almost immediately with missiles and drones. Across the region, drone strikes on energy infrastructures and pressure on the Strait of Hormuz, which is a very important area. Hormuz is the narrow waterway that carries roughly 20% of the world's oil supply. Though 20% look very small, but every day massive oil tankers move through the corridors connecting Middle Eastern energy fields to the global markets. When tankers traffic slows, what happens or becomes uncertain, what happens? The entire global energy market begins to panic, and that panic spreads quite fast. Within days of escalation, oil prices jumped sharply and Brent crude moves close to $90 a barrel. So, energy analysts warn that if disruption around the Strait of Hormuz oil route continues, prices could climb towards $120 in next 2 weeks. For the average American, this does not appear first in Pentagon briefings. This is a bleak picture. It shows up at the gas pumps, one of the largest single-day gasoline prices increases since 2005 has already been recorded. So families driving to work feel it immediately. Trucking companies moving goods across country feeling it. Airlines calculating fuel budgets, they are feeling it. And once fuel prices rise, everything else begin rising with them. Let's say food, transportation, it becomes more expensive. Manufacturing costs increase and airline tickets climb. Delivery services rise prices. In other words, the Iran war oil shock slowly moves from the Middle East into everyday American life. But this is only the first layer of the economic shock. The deeper danger is uncertainty. And shipping companies are now treat parts of the Persian Gulf as a high risk zone. And insurance costs for oil tankers have surged, and some shipping routes are already being diverted away from the Strait of Hormuz, even when the waterway remains open. But still, at the moment, there are dangers. So, energy analysts estimate that between 7 and 11 million barrels of oil per day could face disruption if tensions intensify. That missing supply sends ripple across the global markets. European bonds yields begin rising as investors worry about inflation. Asian markets and the other stock markets reacts to energy uncertainty. Airline cuts forecasts as jet fuel becomes more expensive. And investors begin asking the same question that haunts Washington and that haunted Washington's during the Iraq and Afghanistan war as well. How long will this last? And every American is asking the same question, because the longer a Middle East oil crisis continues, the more expensive it becomes. Here is the uncomfortable reality that much television coverage is not focusing on yet. The first economic casualties of the US-Iran war are not governments. They are consumers, common people, people like you and me, the driver filling his car in California, the trucking company delivering goods across Texas, and the family in Chicago paying higher grocery bills because transportation costs increased. Every spike in global oil prices spreads through the economy like a slow moving shockwave. And that shockwave is already visible not only in US, in other parts of the world. The Dow Jones has dropped hundreds of points. Energy markets remain unstable, and investors are shifting money towards safer assets like gold and government bonds. Oil traders warn that if disruptions in Strait of Hormuz becomes more severe, crude prices could reach $150 a barrel. That is very important. Historically, that kind of oil price surge pushes economies toward inflation, slower growth, and sometimes recession. So, the war between the United States and Iran is not only a military confrontation, it is already an economic event. Within days, energy markets reacted, fuel prices rose, and global supply chains are tightened. And that is a bad news. The longer the conflict continues, the more pressure builds on both the American and European economies. So modern wars are not fought only with missiles and drones. They are fought through oil markets, shipping routes, and fragile psychology of global finance. If there is one idea to remember from this moment, it is the first battlefield of the US-Iran war may not be the Persian Gulf. It may be the global economy. So if this analysis helped you understand the story behind the headlines, subscribe to this channel and keep on watching. Thank you very much. See you with next episode.